start by, first of all, welcoming you all formally to this event, and to say that we will make sure that we find value in what we're doing this afternoon. This is CORA BookTrek, series number 2. Number 2 is the series that will lead us to the Lagos Book and Art Festival, which comes up in November, real and virtual. Right away, I would like to call on the Secretary General of CORA, Mr. Toyin Akinsho, who is the head thinker for CORA, to welcome us to this event. You tell us why we are here. Please, I think you can unmute yourself. Otherwise, Sean, please help me to unmute Mr. Toyin Akinsho.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. Greetings to our very special guest, AREMO SEGUN OSOBA, whose truly remarkable memoirs have brought us together this afternoon. Greetings, members, distinguished members of the House, distinguished members of the National Assembly, ex-governors, current policymakers. You're all welcome to this conversation. This is the second of the 5 book conversations which serve as a preface to the 22nd Lagos Book and Art Festival holding in November. The BookTrek is one of our several outreach programs, an extension service through which we get authors to interface with varying audiences and have robust conversations that deepen the public's understanding of the thematic concepts of the work. Too often in our environment, books, let alone an important book like BATTLELINES, which engage significant milestones in the nation's 60-year history, don't get enough airplay. In a non-COVID world, the BookTrek consists of book readings and curated conversations around books in several select venues: bookshops, galleries, events like Lagos Book and Art Festival. Last year, we had 15 book treks for 5 books in 3 bookshops and 1 special venue. The yearly book party we organize in concert with the NLNG for the long-listed authors for the Nigerian Prize for Literature and the annual Lagos Book and Art Festival are 2 of the outreach programs we curate. CORA believes in the building of the soft infrastructure of the book industry, the presence and improvement of book reviews in the old and new media, and the availability and full utility of a functional library system. We're going to have an exciting time this afternoon listening to Chief Oshoba, engaged by Mr. THECLA WILKIE, herself a no-nonsense broadcaster at NTA. Let us enjoy the moment. But let me do something. I'm not trying to steal Chief's thunder, but there's a part of the book that fascinates me, and I know that that is not one of the parts that he's like to read here. So let me whet your appetite with that particular part of the book. And it has something to do with his relationship with Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, his namesake, who was president. And this particular passage is taken from the lead up to the 2003 elections, which you all know the results of which did happen. On December 26, 2002, Obasanjo barged in on me and my family to pay an unscheduled Christmas courtesy call on the Oshoba family. We received him at 9 a.m. in our house in Abeokuta. Olumide, my son, drove in from Lagos that morning and refused to join the welcoming party. Noticing Olumide's absence, Obasanjo requested to wait for him to come down. Olumide agreed, but requested to take his bath first. Obasanjo still accepted to wait. Obasanjo chose to address the family standing, having rejected my offer to speak while sitting. Obasanjo pleaded with my family to see his and mine as one and united family. He asked that we should treat all the altercation between me and him as purely political and not personal. When Olumide prostrated in Yoruba culture to respond on behalf of the Oshobas, Obasanjo lifted him up to address the House standing. He thanked Obasanjo for the honor and wished him a peaceful and successful tenure in office. We both left for his Olusomi family house for his family Christmas party. While there, he requested to have lunch in my house before returning to Ota. I had to mobilize Gateway Hotel to help for the unscheduled launch. 2 weeks before the first election, Papa Adesanya summoned us to Ota for another meeting with Obasanjo. Some independent witnesses were also invited. Of Ijebu land, Oba Sikiru Aditono, who came with Oba Adekoya Dagurewe of Idowa. Also of Idowa, also invited were Bishop Bonigi of the Anglican Communion and Bishop Ayo Ladibolu of the Methodist Church. To our shock, Chief Adesanya opened fire at Obasanjo, shooting straight from the hips. Mr. President, we hate tactics to ambush us during the elections, he said. From my intelligence gathering, we have learned that you are planning to run us all aground and rig us out of power in the southwestern. By doing that, you would have betrayed our trust and support for you. Ladies and gentlemen, these are some of the snippets that make this book a very interesting, riveting political thriller. Let us enjoy ourselves this afternoon. Thank you very much.
Please, may we call on the publisher of the book of Diamond Publications Limited, Mr. Lanre Idowu, for a statement.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
I hope you can hear me okay.
Yes, we can.
All right. Well, let me begin by saying a very big thank you to CORA for featuring Battle Lines, Adventures in Journalism and Politics in its respected outreach program, BookTrek. I think by so doing, you have demonstrated your preparedness to accord deserved attention to important works in our literary circles. You've also given us a welcome opportunity to link up with ourselves in this era of COVID-19. The pre-meeting banters, especially from our politicians, readily testify to this. For us as publishers of Battle Lines, we are grateful that the attention that Battle Lines is getting is coming at a time when renewed focus is being paid to the place of the media in a polity like ours, to the strides that Nigeria has taken in 60 years of political independence, and the role the political class has played, and it is still playing. Battle Lines continues to arouse interest and elicit comments from informed quarters in politics, in the media, and of course the academia, because it raises questions relevant to them. I'm happy to say that in every department offering a course related to journalism or mass communication, there is at least a copy of Battle Lines in that library, courtesy of the author. The author, Chief SEGUN OSOBA, of course, is a household name, having distinguished himself as a reporter, as an editor, and as a media manager. And of course, as a politician and two-time governor of Ogun State, the birth home of the Nigerian media. In the course of today's conversation, he will probably explain why he chose to write the book. I recall that another distinguished Nigerian politician and journalist, the late Malam Adamu Chiroma, once identified 3 reasons for writing a book. And according to Chiroma, those reasons are: 1, to wield influence; 2, to make money; and 3, to wield influence and make money. I don't know whether Chief Oshoba believes in this classification or he has a different explanation that he would like to share with us today. At this point, let me invite the man of the hour, our friend, our elder, the energetic octogenarian, Chief SEGUN OSOBA, fellow of the Nigerian Guild of Editors and commander of the Order of the Niger, and of course, author of Battle Lines. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think against the program that we've drawn, we would like AREMO Oshoba to make an opening remarks before I call on the moderator. It's your day, sir.
First of all, I want to thank everybody, and especially the CORA people and the BookTrek. I don't want to go into details of naming names, but I want to thank all of you generally for this very great honor. And I must say, my publisher said he would want to know why I wrote the book, whether for fame or for money or for the two combined. I didn't write for any of those reasons. I believe in history, and I believe in documentation. My training as a journalist is to respect facts. And over the years, great men in Nigeria that I love, I pressure them to write. Unfortunately, none of them has been able to write from the mountain of knowledge that I know they had and are being kept. First of all, I pleaded with Yaragawa for years to write and let us even actually know what happened in Ghana. The Aburi Agreement, how he managed the civil war. Unfortunately, Yaragawa is now going to 90. I'm not sure if you remember as much as you would have loved to. Alhaji Lateef Jakonde, a giant in this profession, had a room full of documents. And he kept assuring me he would write. Now, Alhaji Jakonde is now 90. One of my very best friends, late S.B. Awoni, Sunday Awoni, a very, very vast, knowledgeable person about the history of Nigeria. Major events in Nigeria, he was involved. He was private secretary to Sadana Sokoto as a young man. So he was involved in 1966 coup. He was involved in virtually every coup since then. A top-rated secretary. He had a room full of documents and he was about to write, but he died from a motor accident between Kaduna and Abuja. The only person among my heroes who wrote was late Alhaji Joseph. And I thought, if I kept insisting and asking people to put pen to paper, I should also do what I had always been asking them to do. Now, that's one of the major reasons that I wrote. Secondly, there's a lot of discussions about events in my time, and I thought I should throw a challenge to many of those who participated in a lot of issues that I was involved in, so that if my writing can instigate or stimulate them to respond or to put their own in paper, I will have been successful. The issue of daily times, you hear all kinds of stories. I've put my own side of the story. Journalism, I've done my best. The information of the June 12 issue, I've written my own side of the story. The NADECO became, everybody became a member of NADECO. Every Nigerian is a NADECO. I want all those who claim to be NADECO, who are more NADECO than NADECO, those who claim to be more Abiola than Abiola, those who claim to be the people who produced the issue of June 12, and those who claim to be the heroes who fought for return to democracy. I have put pen on paper, and it's my hope that people who participated will also do the same. So my main motive is to stimulate intellectualism, to stimulate history, to help put history in perspective. And this should not be the only book. I'm begging all those who are involved in every aspect of my life I stated how President Obasanjo manipulated, massively rigged the election in 2003. I have put on paper how the job road figures in Ogun State are mindful of the vote. I want my successor for the book launch. I gave an advance copy to read. I will wish that Governor Benga Daniel will also write his own, Obasanjo to also write to debunk my allegation that he manipulated and rigged the 2003, to which I was happy to go just leave. I came to government to serve. And if anybody says, go home and rest, in 2003, I was not ready to go to court to challenge Obasanjo. So, President Buhari went to court, got Ogun State election totally cancelled because of the massive manipulation and rigging. And the judge even said, the justice of the Court of Appeal said that the election in Ogun State was criminal in nature. But I was not ready to contest it because I'm happy to say, if people don't want me again, let me go home and rest. So I have written for history, and it's my hope that this will not be the beginning of the end, and that more people who still have the energy will put pen on paper and write. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Your Excellency, we're glad. And people have been writing comments, even on WhatsApp. Somebody said, we admire your courage to be able to speak truth to power. Thank you very much, sir. I'd like to call on, thank you, sir, on Akin Fatunke, who was part of this whole plan to ambush His Excellency. he was part of the plan and check out too. So I would like him to help us introduce the moderator, THECLA WILKIE, whom Toyin spoke about earlier on. So Akin Fatunke, please, AK-47.
Okay, on a project at a time for the benefit of the common good. Her areas of specialization is in the broadcast journalism genre. And that field includes reporting, program production, and TV representations. She also engages in public relations and media consultancy. She holds a BA degree in philosophy from the University of Ibadan, and I think she's still moving on in terms of getting a lot of education. THECLA has wide areas of interests, which includes culture, music, education, and abiding faith in a better Nigeria. Everything good about Nigeria. And one of the major areas that she has featured will be to hosts, a la Oprah Winfrey style, many prominent persons across the globe. It's my pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished author and distinguished publisher, and the BookTrek group, and every other person present here, to introduce THECLA WILKIE, who will be doing the firing of questions to our author. THECLA, please take it away.
Thank you very much, Akin Fatunke, and thank you, THECLA. Before you start, I just want to quickly, because you may not be able to get to the chat room to read this, just some comments. I'll just take about 2 or 3 of them. It's nice to see our most respected elder of the profession, Chief Osoba, here. We are proud of you, sir. That's Olayinka Oyegbile, Deputy Editor at the Nation newspaper. Azualinze, publisher of The Eyes, Battle Line is the best autobiography that I've read. Excellent, exceptional. Hello Africa Media, great to know that Chief Osoba wrote for posterity. Hadi Sani, His Excellency AREMO SEGUN OSOBA is an intellectual domain of leadership ideology. And thank you for this wonderful drive. As I say again, I believe in history and I believe in documentation. Osoba and why he wrote Battle Line. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll be taking more of your comments later. So let me give it now to THECLA WILKIE. Take it away, as Akin Fatunke has said. The session begins.
Thank you so much. Greetings, everyone. It's good to have all of you take time out to join us on this program today. Well, the book itself, as our previous speakers have said, it has generated and stimulated quite a number of conversations in different directions. And of course, as Chief rightly put it, it will also bring about other authors, hopefully, in journalism and even in politics, because he's thrown quite a number of arrows at people, and I'm hoping that they will all respond in good time. Well, without much ado, because I mean, all has been said, most of what needs to be said, to, at least for the opening, has been said. The previous speakers have done a good job in opening the floor. We'll just do a brief, just for protocol, we'll just do a brief introduction of Chief Osoba, just in a few lines. Chief Osoba, of course, is a two-time governor of Ogun State and a chieftain of the ruling party, the APC. He was a former managing director of the Daily Times, Nigeria's largest newspaper of his days. He was the general manager of the Sketch and the Herald. Chief Osoba obviously holds many caps, but today we'll be exploring his journalistic experience and political furrow, which has earned him a remarkable corner in the Nigerian historical architecture. Through this, we can't talk about the Nigerian media and the nation's political trajectory without mentioning Chief Osoba, which is why he's resolved to put pen on paper to share his experiences in both human endeavor, I mean, in both politics and the media domain, is very, very commendable, especially for posterity and for the younger generations who are looking forward to venturing into the terrain of journalism and politics. Interestingly, whenever I refer to him as a politician, he never ceases to remind me that he's a journalist first. And that's, it speaks to how much he reveres that profession and how he wouldn't want that cap taken away from him no matter what. And it also speaks to the truth, to the fact that once you are a journalist, you always remain a journalist. It's like a bug. Once it seeps into your DNA, it never leaves. Just to emphasize on previous speakers, the book Battle Line is a riveting political thriller, which just happened to be a biography of Chief Olusegun Osoba. As much as it's a depiction of events in Chief Osoba's eventful 81 years on the planet Earth, Battle Lines for most readers will come in handy, especially in dissecting the evolution of the Nigerian political system from a first-hand narrator. It's a sketch of Nigeria's political evolution from military dictatorship to civilian rule, and is searching insights to the practice of journalism in the country. It essentially captures significant and existential account of the socio-political and economic climate of that time. The review of this book is coming at no better time as Nigeria will be turning 60. I mean, in just a few weeks, we'll be attaining the monumental statehood of 60, and that calls for sober reflection. So reading this book now will crystallize into moments of retrospection on where we are coming from, where we are now, and where we need to go moving forward. In effect, the book covers 3 focus areas, and we intend to do justice to these areas as much as time will permit. The author's outline are clear, but we attempt to interrogate the motives and just investigate what has inspired the author, to write this book. Already he has said a bit of what motivated him. His activism is one, his journalism, his career in journalism is another, his political career is another. And then you talk about his personal story. I mean, all of them were all nicely knitted in such a way that once you pick the book, you don't want to drop it. So we cut to the chase as we zoom into our author. Not much talk. He will be the one doing most of the talking. So we'll want to look into his perspective on Battle Lines. I'm speaking to the author now, Chief AREMO Osoba.
Yes, I can hear you now. Go on.
Okay, sir. This is thanking you for availing us your time on the program. And on following the tradition of BookTrek, we'll be asking you to read some portions of the book. I will begin with the first of about 4 just be mindful. We'll have 4 other pages we'd like you to read in the course of the conversation. So we'd like you to flip through to page 2, not from the top, but from the 3rd paragraph, which begins with a statement: "I never knew my life was hanging by a thread until Sergeant Rogers revealed that I was high on the list." Could you read that for us? And then you stop at Abacha thoughts went to Air Commodore Dan Suleiman. If you could just avail us that portion as the author, read it to us.
Thank you. I never knew my life was hanging by a thread until Sergeant Rogers revealed that I was high on the list of Nigerians targeted for death by the hit squad. Such was my naivety and ignorance of the grim reality that even when my friend Dr. Alex Ibru, the publisher of Guardian, was shot on February 2, 1996, I drove straight from Abeokuta to Lagos to stay with him at St. Nicholas Hospital. When Senator Abraham Adesanya was also escaped Rogers' sniper attack on January 14, 1997, in which his car was riddled with bullets. I was one of the first people to visit him in Apapa. I did not know that I too was marked for a similar fate. I was therefore in total shock when I learned of the conflict and confusion between Sergeant Rogers and Major Al-Mustafa during their interrogation by the Special Investigation Panel set up by the transitional military regime under General Absalami Abubakar after Abacha's death. In the drama, well captured by Tell magazine of February 13, 2012, page 5, Rogers' boss, Al-Mustafa, vehemently denied ever sending him to kill anyone, and enraged Sergeant Rogers countered, insisting, quote, "You sent me, you sent us to Rutham House, you sent us on an assignment for the assassination of Alex Ibru, Kudirat Abiola, Segun Osoba, Bola Ige, and Abraham Adesanya assignments." When Al-Mustafa persisted in his denial, Rogers rebuked him sharply, quote, "I believe you should be bold enough to come out and say the truth. Why are you denying this? You should be bold, because you have been telling us that you are going to protect us. We should not worry, you said. You should be bold enough to come out. And you are a major in the army. This drama was set against the backdrop of the June 12, 1993 crisis and its aftermath. Under the goggled Abacha, Nigeria witnessed the dark ages, a period that was marked by human rights abuses, terrorism, and assassinations of perceived enemies of the regime, one after the other. Abacha's goons eliminated perceived opponents with impunity. Chief Alfred Rwande, Kudirat Abiola were felled by the assassin's bullet. State-sponsored arsonists burned down properties belonging to General Alani Akinade, Air Commodore Dan Suleiman, and Chief Gani Fahimi suffered state-sponsored arson. It was also under Abacha that environmental activist Ken Saru came from death at this dark period was purely an act of God. That is why today I no longer fear death. I believe that nobody can kill me except it is the will of God. If not so, I would have been long gone. If somebody waited in front of my house for a whole day to kill me, as claimed by Sergeant Rogers, and I did not come out, it was the hand of God. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Chief Oshoba. You know, the interesting thing is that this story, of course, will resonate with people of your time, but about a third of the current population were not born then. And of course, this will serve as historical exercise for most of them who would get to read the book. Now, in your account, you were so vivid about it, like it happened yesterday. In fact, it's even sounded like a movie of some sort. When you read, as you read through, you feel like you're reading a movie script. And your account is so encyclopedic in nature, such that every detail, seemed to have been captured in your book. Now, what are the take home for younger ones who were probably not, of course, obviously not part of that time and terrain? What are the take home from this portion of the book you just read for the younger ones?
Well, it's to show them a lesson and to let them know our travails. We are enjoying democracy today. We have enjoyed change of government from civilian to civilian, which have never happened in the history of Nigeria, at least 4 times now. From Obasanjo to Yar'Adua, Yar'Adua to Jonathan, and Jonathan to Buhari. A lot of people don't know what some of us suffered. And it is important that they should read and know that we didn't get this democracy just by chance. It is by the efforts and sacrifices made by many of them dead. Alfred Rwande is dead. Ernest Tribune suffered and is gone to his Lord. People should read back, look back, and learn from history what transpired at that time.
Okay, there is also a strong comment you made in the book about what happened, about what could have happened if Abacha had been relieved of his duties as a defense minister. To quote you, Shonekan didn't have the strength to assert his leadership by firing Abacha. If he did, perhaps he would have changed the course of history. How would that Nigeria have been compared to the one we're living in today?
I said that because Abacha was a ruthless. I knew Abacha in Ibadan when he was GOC and I was managing director of Sketch. A very quiet, a recluse character. he never betrayed this ruthlessness that manifested when he became the head of state. Abacha virtually turned state assassination into routine business. And from him, some other subsequent government decided to start killing Nigerians. Thank God, current situation is not the same as it used to be under Abacha. The course of history would have been different. I mean, look at Bola Ige died. Nobody has ever been able to tell us who killed Bola Ige. Dokubo was killed. Ari Marshall was killed. All these are under civilian government. I could go on and on naming those who were killed by government. And because I said they were killed by government, because if a government cannot unravel the killers of these people, then that government should be held responsible. It was Abacha who started all this. And if he hadn't died, God knows what Nigeria would have been today. We would have been destroyed totally. We would have lost all our self-esteem.
Okay, in the state, there's from page 8, if you look at page 8, where you were trying to tell the story of the events that happened during the Al-Mustafa trial, that's the state versus Al-Mustafa and others. I'll just read a portion on page 10 where you said the judgment raises a question of whether Nigerian courts are actually courts of justice as they are called, or more courts of law. For in a court of justice, according to the law, sentiments have no place at all. It is a popular view in legal circles that sentiments or a semblance of it is never allowed to filter into justice. And that is why the Court of Appeal came across in this case as a no more than a court of law determined to espouse the principles of law to arrive at the destination. It is the consideration of the law to set captives free, whether or not there were justification for this. You spoke passionately and expressly about how the legal system then failed you, because you're personalizing it now. Now, if you look at the legal system then and what obtains now, do you think it is gone better or it's gone worse in terms of administration of justice?
Well, that portion that you read is the editorial written by the Guardian.
Yes.
After Al-Mustafa was discharged.
Yes.
Of course, the publisher of the Guardian was a major victim of Al-Mustafa group and Sergeant Rogers' attack. So that was the editorial written by the Guardian to reject and dismiss the conclusion of the Court of Appeal on Al-Mustafa's case. It was shocking to all of us because the evidence was so overwhelming. And at the lower court, Al-Mustafa was sentenced. For the later court to now use technicalities, I'm not surprised because up to today, our judiciary need to re-examine itself. I'll give you an example. I read all kinds of judgments, counter declaration, counter order from different segments. And it makes me very unhappy because I grew up as a judicial correspondent of the Daily Times. At that time, we used to cover the like of Justice J.I.C. Taylor, the likes of Dadi Oyama, the likes of Udo Udoma. These were first-class judges. And when they make rulings, they make profound rulings But modern day judiciary gives me a lot of concern. For example, in 2019 election, I think, the election in Akwa Ibom was rigged. The case was well proved. Now, the judgment given was that because the electronic voting is not in the Electoral Act, all the overvoting and all the rigging, the court could not take cognizance of that. And so the overvoting at the election in Akwa Ibom was thrown out, and the major case, which was proven beyond reasonable doubt, was thrown aside on technicality. Same thing happened in Rivers State on technicalities. I am saying that it would not have happened in the days of J.I.C. Taylor, in the days of Adio Yama. That's why some of them rose to go to, like Elias, rose to the level of going to International Court of Justice. We need to go back. Up to today, I'm not happy where conflicting rulings are given. A ruling will be given in Abuja, another one will be given in Kano, another one will be given in Maiduguri. Our judiciary is making some little bit of mess of our judicial system.
Well, in a nutshell, what reforms would you recommend? What reforms would you want to happen in your time, given the mess that you have enunciated that's happening in the judiciary as we have it today?
Well, before you rise to the bench, I expect that we should stop this idea. There was a story about 3 or 4 months ago where members of the bench started sponsoring their daughters, their sons, their nieces and nephews to be appointed judges. Is disgraceful. The system of appointment of judges need to be reviewed. There must be evidence of intellectualism, profound performance in the legal profession, seriously examined. It should not be nepotism of the kind that we saw a few months ago. It's all in the domain, where those who are still on the bench were sponsoring their children and relations to be appointed judges. That is where we lost it. That needs to be looked into. There should be serious reformation by the National Judicial Service Commission.
Okay, so moving forward now, we are approaching a second reading. You had a tough relationship with Abiola initially, yet you became his staunchest supporter prior to the election, effectively working as his campaign manager, even when you were a sitting governor. You got involved in activism after his perceived election was annulled. So Chief, if you would do us another honors, would like for you to read the first 6 paragraphs of Abiola chapter, starting from page 167, and then you end in the middle of page 168. Would have just oblige us.
Chief Obafemi was at home one sultry day in the mid-80s when he was informed that an unlikely visitor, the Chief Moshood Kashimago Olawale Abiola, his arch enemy, so to speak. Awolowo was stunned. It sounded like an April Fool's Day, but he decided to receive the visitor, if only to find out his mission. As Abiola spotted the old man coming in his direction, he threw himself flat on the ground in the Yoruba obeisance reserved for an elder On getting up, Abiola embraced his old nemesis, apologizing for breezing into the old man's home without notification. He did not stop at apology. He demanded food, eat lunch in my house. A surprised Awu asked, as if he wasn't too sure of what he had, adding, as a rule and habit, I don't eat lunch. Quote, Baba, I am hungry. I want to eat eba. Abiola insisted. As arrangement was being made to prepare lunch, Awo sat there, bemused. After some waiting, lunch finally arrived, and Abiola ate like a truly hungry man. He cleared every morsel in his plate, a sign that he enjoyed the food. After lunch, Abiola formally explained his mission. He had come for peace. He had come to ask the old man to forgive him of all his political transgressions. Everything he had done, he informed the old man, was political, not personal. He said that even while playing politics, he still respected and admired Awo as a leader whose achievements will forever remain evergreen in history. Awolowo was touched. He agreed to forgive Abiola and even prayed for him. Chief Abiola was a paradox, a man of complex extremes, a man you could love to hate, and yet hate to love at the same time. He was a man of destiny. Fate beckoned on him to toss his heart into the political arena, to vie to be Nigeria's president under the transition program of the military government of our mutual friend, General Ibrahim Babangida. Thank you.
Thank you. I wanted you to end there. And the whole reason for having you read that portion is General Babangida and Abiola, of course. Those are two names that Nigeria will never forget. So now, in your view, what kind of Nigeria would we have been living in today if Abiola's election hadn't been annulled? I mean, you were part of the struggle, of the whole preparation and all of that. What did you envision for Nigeria when you went into that whole process?
We will have, for once, had a president that was not sponsored by the military, even though he was a friend of the military. Because the Abiola I know is a man of independent mind. We will not have had what we have had since. We have had the military still virtually imposing or sponsoring president on us. Post Abacha, President Obasanjo was a military general. He sponsored on us and foisted on us. He influenced it and influenced Jonathan. So I could say that the election of both Yaradua and Jonathan were influenced by military general, of which Obasanjo is a major player. Well, we are in to President Buhari, even though President Buhari has his own large following. Virtually all the military men saw him as one of them and endorsed him. It's about time we elect a thorough civilian of the like of Abiola, somebody who, like Abiola said, Hope 93, will give hope to we civilians. Let a civilian, a thorough civilian, a civilian politician for a change come on board.
But looking at the relationship between Nigeria as a whole and the military, this is a marriage that a lot of people, most Nigerians and observers, analysts will say may never end. What's your take on that?
It has to end. It has to end. Because you see, the training of these military officers, the general, is apex command. Nigeria cannot survive in an apex command. Nigeria can only survive in a collegiate system, a situation where we have a genuine and true federalism, like we have in Canada, like we have in Australia, like we have in America, where the states, even the mayors, are telling off Donald Trump because each is elected. But in Nigeria, we all seem to just observe the chain of command that the military are used to. The military have turned us into a unitary government. And we have to just put an end to over-centralized presidency in Nigeria.
Okay, so moving forward, let's establish this. Is Babangida your friend?
Close friend. Very close friend. I will never deny that. Because Babangida and I went to Lagos Red in our younger days. I used to take them around the whole of Lagos. I was their master in the social scene. So I cannot now come and deny my friendship with Babangida, even though we disagree seriously on the issue of June 12.
Okay, I was going to get there. You know, he annulled a free and fair election and threw the country into chaos. Yet, there is no place in the book where you blamed him. As a matter of fact, you threw a lot of hard punches at people, but for some reason, and curiously so, you didn't quite mention him, given the fact that all the decisions and all that happened during that period was hanging on his shoulder.
Oh, yes, of course. You see, it's unfortunate that June 12 annulment virtually became a serious albatross for General Ibrahim Babangida. Say what you like, his creation of two-party system was a masterstroke. His performance in office was great. Even Papa Awolowo told me that under no circumstance would he ever criticize Babangida, and he did it. Why? Because Babangida was one who released all his colleagues who were jailed for no serious and major indictment or reason. And Babangida was a man, in terms of performance, take Abuja, for example, take the villa, take the Torbay Land Bridge, one say so many things that he did. But unfortunately, the June 12 was the one that was an albatross. I won't deny him as my friend. He is. Well, he made a major mistake, maybe under pressure. Again, he has not written, which is the unfortunate thing. We cannot know the inner situation that led to the annulment.
Okay, I'm sure the audience would have more questions in that direction. And I'm moving on to your career as a journalist. You said in the book that the best accolade you can ever have is to be called a reporter. In a sense, the profession chose you. Your active years as a journalist placed you at the center of many defining moments of post-independent Nigeria. Now, we will beat ourselves if we don't ensure that, you read one of another passage, and that will be a passage on your heroism as a journalist. If you would also do us this honor by going to page 50. It's a very short passage on the scoop on General Bisoye that you gave. You start from, I couldn't expect the scoop I got from General Bisoye. Let's have you read that one. You read and end at page 53.
I couldn't have expected the scoop, as we call it in journalism, that I got from General Bisoye. He told me the whole story of what transpired within the armed forces. He told me the names of those who are behind the coup, how the coup plotter insisted that they wanted General Murtala Mohammed as the new head of state. He revealed to me that they had decided to retire all the senior officers of the rank of Major General or equivalent and above, and the service chiefs too, including Vice Admiral Joseph Edet Akinwale Way, Chief of Staff Supreme Headquarters, Major General Hassan Kassina, Deputy Chief of Staff Supreme Headquarters, Major General David Ejo, Chief of Staff Army, Rear Admiral Nelson Solo, Chief of Naval Staff, Brigadier E.E. Ikwe, Chief of Air Staff, and many more. They also retired Alhaji Kam Salim, the Inspector General of Police, and Chief T.A. Fabola, the Deputy Inspector General of Police. General Bisoye also told me about some other major decisions taken by the new regime. These were all exclusives, but the details were so profound that I had to ask him which part of the stories I could publish in the newspaper. I will leave that to your professional judgment, he said, seemingly unafraid of any possible backlash. Whatever I publish from the information it pursued from me, he declared was the truth. And if I ran into any problems with the stories I published, it will stand by me as the source of my information. I have always known General Bisoye to be quintessential officer and a gentleman, very blunt and sharp-witted, sticking his neck out if I ran into stormy water only reinforced my trust in the general. With Abisoye's assurance, I drove back to the office in Kakawa. By the time I got there, it was 6 in the evening. To my shock, the entire newsroom was empty. How was I? With the hot exclusives, but no editor to share the news with and authorize the publication. Even though I was the deputy editor of Oyebola, I also knew that I didn't have the authority to unilaterally change the front page of the newspaper. At that time that I was in the office, the curfew announced by the coup plotters had taken effect. Therefore, my mobility was circumscribed. Yet, I could not phone Ebola to seek his permission because the telephone exchange on the Lagos Island had been demobilized. Nobody could make phone calls from the island to any other parts of Lagos or the country as a whole. At any rate, the Times office was so strategically located in central Lagos that I could not even hope to move around the area without encountering military personnel. The Central Bank, the Ministry of Defense, the General Post Office headquarters, the main exchange of Nitel were all around or across the street from the Times headquarters. How could I get out of the office and pass through this heavily guarded axis? Amused. My mind went back to what had happened about 9 years earlier when I discovered the body of Prime Minister Tafawa Balewa and Finance Minister Okotiebo on a Friday. I had gone to the house of my editor, Mr. Peter Inahu, to intimate him with the story. But because he was not available, I went home and reported to the office the next day, a Saturday, to write the story for the Sunday Times. Alhaji Joseph was with me when he learned what happened. He felt that I should have contacted him as the editor-in-chief when I couldn't find my editor, so that he could authorize the change of the front page. He felt rightly that any other newspaper would have scooped us on the story. With the memory of that experience, my choices were clear. Since I could not go back to the editor's house in Surrey because of the curfew, I should try to reach the editor-in-chief who lived in Ikoyi on the island. The challenge was how to get to his residence. It occurred to me that during the Civil War, when we attended Havana Festival at the University of Ibadan, our passes to the military checkpoints were the early copies of the newspaper Daily Times, which we gave out to the soldiers at the checkpoints. Given that the paper was circulated throughout the rest of the country, the soldiers recognized free copies of the paper as automatic passes for us as journalists. I took 50 copies of the first edition of the Times and jumped into my car to drive to Joseph's house on Cooper Road, Ikoyi. I gave her copies of the paper as I drove to the military checkpoints and was waved on at each point until I got to Alhaji Joseph's house. When I told him about the exclusive story I had, he decided that given the information I had, we had to change the front page of the second edition of the Times. It was at that point that it also occurred to him that there was a curfew. How did you get here? I just asked. I told him, all right then, we will go back to the office together using the same method. He responded. We drove back with ease because the soldiers recognized me instantly as the Times man who just drove past earlier. Up to the day of the coup, the Daily Times had been waging a media war against General Murtala Mohammed as the Federal Commissioner of Communication. As minister, Murtala had unilaterally awarded a contract to the International Telephone and Telegraph, ITT Nigeria Limited, headed by Chief Moshood Abdullah. The ministry's permanent secretary, Mr. Theophilus Akindele, opposed Murtala's action and told the ranking soldier that he had no power to award such a huge contract without the process of getting through the tenders board. Daytimes took up the crusade and serially attacked Murtala's action. We supported Mr. Akindele's insistence that the Federal Executive Council ought to approve a contract of that magnitude. The same man who had acted so arbitrarily had now become the head of state. To have ignored the story of Murtala Muhammad's appointment as the new head of state could have been regarded as a daytime's continuation of his attack on him as Federal Commissioner of Communications. Thanks to General Bisoye. General Bisoye's revelations, his trust in me, and the courage he gave me to go ahead and publish was a story and beat other newspaper with additional details on the coup.
Thank you very much, sir. You have no doubt established that back in the day, it was serious business. Journalism was serious business, and you would do anything and everything, to ensure that you get the story out. Your doggedness back in the day and what seemed to obtain today, are there comparisons?
Pardon? My doggedness?
Yes, back in the day, journalism back in the day was, it was almost a do or die affair, where people would bend over backwards, take the shirt off their back to make sure that they get a story out. And if you compare the spirit, the enthusiasm then and the passion, that drove the profession, would you say we still have that now in today's reality?
Unfortunately, some of our journalists still have the passion and dedication, but many of them are too lazy. The access to information is so wide. You are better educated than we were. You are doing your master's. You got one. You be I must say, it's unfortunate.
And on one hand, you had Alhaji Jose crowning you and pushing you, inspiring you to realize and achieve your potential. And on the other hand, we had Tony Momoh, the Minister of Information. He had his moves to have you retired as the MD of the newspaper in 1988. Those are two different clear-cut, scenarios that played out in your life. How does that speak to today's civil service in terms of competence, sentiments, and this sense of entitlement?
You can't compare because the daytimes of our days, unfortunately, some publishers today are now paying salaries regularly and creating a situation where the system is being corrupted. The same thing with civil service. The civil service of our days, they didn't have to go looking for means of sustenance when they retire. Because they were well taken care of. They took pride in their profession. When they retired, some of them got jobs and consultancy in different areas. But since civilian government of post-1999 started monetizing issues to the point of even monetizing electoral system, everything has been bastardized and corrupted. That is the difference.
All right. So you moved to become, you became the general manager at the Herald in Ilorin and the Sketch in Ibadan. But in those two places, how would you respond to the charges by critics that you were not exactly averse to using your contacts to secure your position? An incident was the case of the reporting of the governor of Kwara State to his superiors Another was the calling up of senior military officers to confirm your retirement as MD of the Daily Times. The CEO of BBC will not be cozying up to so much with top civil servants in the British government because they're part of the people, he reported. And he owes them his objective in the reportage of these issues. You had so many contacts, you had so much on your plate and on your hand, but for some reason, you just wanted to keep everything professional. Why was that?
Well, I keep saying that I'm a reporter. And a good reporter must have wide-ranging contacts. And to be a good reporter, you must nurture your contact. You must also be trustworthy. Your contacts must trust you. Your contact must have confidence in you to draw the line between the amount of information that you can use and the amount of information that you can keep to yourself. So over the years, I maintain strong contacts, and you must be incorruptible. Because once you start getting obligations from your contacts, I had contacts at topmost level right from the days I was covering Tafawa Balewa and others in Parliament. I knew the Prime Minister one-on-one. I knew governors, I knew ministers. I never asked for any obligation from any of them. So like you talk about Babangida, Ikewachuku, myself, Air Marshal Abbas, Air Marshal Bello, I can name them. I used to take them, we used to run around the entire nightclubs in Lagos from Friday to Sunday. So you develop contacts, win the confidence of people, and over time, and I always tell them, as they grew to be general, I too became a field marshal in my profession, untainted. And that's why I could call on any contact at any time. My going to CORA, I didn't want to go, but SB Awoniyi used his knowledge of administrative knowledge to now, since I said that I cannot abort my career in data, and decided to now send me on secondment. So I still remain a staff of Daily Times when I was in Herald. As for the Daily Sketch, I got the job after an interview, but then Obasanjo aborted it on the excuse that I'm too close to Awolowo. Unfortunately for him, the Awolowo governors won the elections in Yoruba land, and they went back to the letter of appointment. So if you talk of my moving, I got to bury it. You might say that I have contact. Yes, I do. A good journalist, and a reporter in any case, you can be a writer. A writer may not bother about having contact, but a damn good reporter must have strong contact, reliable contacts, and reliable sources of information. And people must expect, look at General Bisoye. I knew General Bisoye during the Civil War. He grew to be general, and I was growing my profession. There was mutual respect. And when he gave me the story, he was sure that I would use my knowledge to know where I would draw the line. But because he trusted me, he was ready to say that, well, if you run into trouble, I will back you up. It takes a man of honor to stand with his friend, even if he runs into trouble. So this is the situation with me.
Okay. You know, back in the day, you established it that journalists were well paid, they were respected, and they had everything. They had the enabling environment to carry out their profession. But that's flying the face of today's reality. Today, some of them are not paid. And so the function of the brown envelope we talk about, you know, coming to play, and sometimes colors their reportage, you know, in some instances. And looking at everything in general, just looking at the picture, the big picture of journalism of yesteryears and how it is now, what disappoints you, and what's your take on the interface between social media and the traditional media?
Well, unfortunately, I keep saying, the social media people are not journalists. They are not, and I repeat, many of them call themselves journalists. They are not trained. They do not subscribe to our code of conduct. We have our own conduct, Nigerian Presidential Code of Conduct. They do not have professional training, and they do not have respect for facts and truth, and they don't balance. They are blackmailers. And I say it with all energy, because I have been a victim. Sarah reporter that everybody talked about was a blackmailing platform. There was a time I went to write a statement for EFCC in the company in which I was involved. And because Sahara Reporter was a tool in the hands of EFCC, as I was taken off to go to London, they called me to say they had I've been taken in, and I'm involved with about 100 million worth of contract that I stole. And I said, look, I'm about to board. When I get to New York, I got to New York, they called me. I gave them my own side of the story, and they went ahead to publish that I was involved in a scam. Bloody lie. The same Sahara Reporter years ago, a very well-placed, high-class Nigerian journalist, one of our fathers in the profession, was maligned. They claimed that the one was involved in certain things in Kudu. Totally untrue. I hate the hate speech bill, but many of these bloggers, many of these people on the platform are blackmailers. But in the same vein, we journalists, we ourselves should move on to the information technology and establish platform. I don't know why, I don't see why you should not establish your own newspaper on the platform. Two, major newspaper should be in a position now to go internet. We must update our stories and be up to date. I'll keep giving an example of Premium Times. Premium Times is one platform managed by a professional journalist. And each time Premium Times does an investigative journalism, you will see an in-depth investigation and a very interesting story. And I've not heard of any of Premium Times story, investigated story, denied. So you must draw a line between bloggers who are not trained journalists, who are imposters, pretenders, and those of us who are journalists. And we must not leave the information technology and internet to them. We too must move in there. As I keep telling people, I'm happy that e-vending is now the in thing. You don't have to go and buy your paper hard copy on the street anymore. You can subscribe to this day, the Guardian, the Tribune, the Daily Trust, all of them sold on internet, and I do. I subscribe as an, to the e-vending, and I get paper sent to me early in the morning every day without having to buy the hard copy. We, in the traditional media, should be information technology savvy. Secondly, publishers are not able to pay because they are overstaffed. We don't need people who have to come physically to newsroom. You can have reporters who work from home. Today, you don't need so many photographers. The same reporter is the photographer. The same reporter is the sub-editor. The same reporter will send the story, will send the picture via WhatsApp, via so many platforms to the office. And it doesn't need to report in the office. We should have less staff, so there will be ability to pay. Anybody who is not information technology literate should not be a reporter.
Okay, so let me draw your attention to that the incident of that UAC scandal that involved Patrick Chadwick and Mrs. Adekunbi Adieti, where he slapped the sales girl for whatever reason. And you were very, very blunt when you said that there was a conspiracy of silence by other media houses over the incident. Well, why it may play out two ways, that you were like betraying the media structure then and revealing some of the trade secrets, how some media would decide to use a particular story against the other and all of that. Your revelation then and now, would you say anything has changed in terms of some media houses' preference for picking a story over the other based on sentiments, on whatever reason or ulterior motive that they may have?
Well, what happened at that time in 1964, I think, was an inspector slapped a sales lady, they could be Chadwick, his name, and the head of the publication department of USC wanted the story killed, and he passed around brown envelope. We have always had brown envelope in any case, and I refused to be part of that nonsense. So my other colleagues killed the story, and I went to the office and wrote the story, and Peter Nauro gave it a banner headline on the front page. The following day, the publication manager of USC, who is also an influential person, is my big brother, I won't name him, came to complain to Enauru that my story was a distortion. Unknown to him, Enauru summoned me to his office, and I confronted the man. I said, well, this and this was the fact that happened, and that you shared money to my colleagues, and because I didn't take your money, now you come here to want to destroy me before my editor. Enauru was so happy that he said, okay, I can go and leave. After the man left, he said, yes, he's so happy with me. And he wrote, immediately wrote a commendation letter to me that I was able, that it had never happened that a reporter would face an important head of publication department like USC and confront him and blast him the way I did. Well, I would say I never knew I would be a governor or be an editor. I just did my business. I can give you an example. When I was a building inspector in the City Council in 1962, I inspected the houses of Peter Obe, Father Hero, Lydia Duanco in Sudeli. At that time, they used to bribe building inspectors to do inspection. And I just did my job and went. I never knew I would join the editors only to come and meet Peter Obe, chief photographer, Father Hero, head of advertisement department, and all of us working together in daily times. You see, whatever you do in the past will always come back to fall in the future. So the thing is that we should be honest with ourselves.
Okay, you always take pride, in calling yourself a reporter, a journalist. And of course, you are also a well-known politician in Nigeria today. Given these two terrains that you operate in, and then looking at the typical Nigerian politician, most of them have their first love or their first profession, their calling, professional calling. But the thing is, once they veer into politics, they never look back. They never come back to their profession. Like the doctors who are politicians now do not want to be associated with the medical profession anymore. Why is that? And the second question is, isn't it time for us in this country to make politics a part-time endeavor such that, we can also save costs given the economic status of Nigeria today?
Well, it depends on your personality. For example, I've not been in modesty. I lived in my house. I drove my car as governor. I didn't have bulletproof car. If I campaigned amongst people, why should I be afraid of my people? So transition from governance to private life was no problem to me. Anybody who's going to be a good leader and a good person in government must, first of all, discipline himself. I don't waste anything in my house. I use my toothpaste to the last. I press it to the last bit. I use my bath soap to the last bit, and so I manage government to the last bit and the best of resources. In my time, I had only 250,000 naira a month as security vote. I'm not one of those who go and rake in large sums of money as security vote. I manage resources the way I would manage my own personal life. So what is important is to be yourself, be honest with yourself, do things right. I'm not being modest, but at least to today, I'm not a guest of EFCC or ICPC. I therefore will say that politics is not a profession. It's just another way to serve. I came back and I like to still be a reporter, and I'm still reporting it today. And the name I made is not because I was governor. The friends I have are friends I made as a journalist, friends I met, not those I met as governor. Those I met as governor, I put them aside. But my friends, who I still cherish today, were friends I've made over the years. And even when I was governor, I was still visiting them. I never went around with retinue of aides and security. So I love my profession. I'm proud of being a journalist. I'm not ashamed to be a politician. Of course, I'm a politician, serious one, and I'll play politics till I die. And even when I'm being lowered to the grave, I'll still be playing politics. But I'll remain a reporter, both in life and death.
That's a very, very, very profound statement you just made there. And so we are gradually wrapping up on this segment of the program. But before we finally move on to the next item on the list, could you kindly read page 34, third paragraph of page 34, which says, when I think of old Lagos, I remember, and just continue like that. Page 34. That should be our last question, actually.
When I think of old Lagos, I remember Okeolo used to be the hub of activities around which other events revolve in the 50s in Lagos. Located there was the West End Cafe, later West End Coliseum. Adjacent to Logo was Akobo, which stretched from one end of Marina to the other. It was also famous for journalism, as the headquarters of Daily Service, later Daily Express, was there. The daytime printing department started from the junction of Broad Street. Idita, Isaleofin, which was adjacent to Akobo, had under the apple tree, the place where I.S. Adewale socialized with his peers. Akobo contained Rialto Cinema, which exposed the lethargy of Lagos firefighters. No water is not a new apology of Lagos firefighters. There was a fire outbreak which got Rialto that could not be contained because of lack of water. The incident gave rise to a hit Agidigbo song by Rio Lindo Band, which ridiculed the fire service. I remember Tinubu Square was the bus terminus on the island, from where we disembark and walk to our various secondary schools: Baptist Academy, Seminal Grammar School, Methodist Boys High School, King's College, Ahmadiyya College, then in the Igoshere area, St. Gregory's College, and Holy Child College. Other high schools were on the mainland. They included the Igbobi College, Methodist Girls High School, New Era Secondary School, Lagos City College, Legal Memorial Baptist Girls Secondary School, and Southern College, Isolo. But Freeman and St. Fimba started later. Tinubu Square also housed the Supreme Court, also known as West African Court of Appeal, WACA, in all its majesty. The present site of Union Bank at Tinubu area housed the Orange House of Otumba Payne in all its splendor. The Union Bank Clubhouse, which was strictly for table tennis, was located opposite PZ on Balogun Street. Our time at Ologbo was a golden age to those of us brought up by Mrs. Makoju at 69 Akogo Street. Dr. Olu Makoju, Barrister Bankole Makoju, Shubawale Hughes, Toyi Makoju, Efudoke Efubo, Efutunde, as well as the Awokoya sisters. The threat of kidnappers was not within the consideration of anybody. Mechanical vehicle accidents were far apart. Storytellers were not available or had dwindled out of existence. There was no television program to save us from the call of the crickets and crabs in different tones. Talking of crab brings memories of Imo soup, something peculiarly Lagos made from the fresh of boiled crabs and pepper and groundnut oil. The result was a pleasurable meal. It was sold with a G-bone soft biscuit bone. The begiri bean soup was thick and tasty and could be eaten with a bar. There was also luru leaf, okra beef soup. Walking from Ologbo to Epetedo and back to buy these delicacies lasted about 45 minutes, and there was usually a long queue at the seller's place, fueled by the constant haggling for a choice of bowls and the quality of the accompanying soup, usually begiri or luru. The destination was either Ojuna, as it's known, behind the Lagos Central Mosque, or shouting distance from Mrs. Mulika Shashore's house, or Epetedo's, a stone throw from Kuso, the Igumuko changing place. On errands within the island, we usually enjoyed ourselves with boat races. Our boats are made from papers and put on clean drainage to float along the drainage. Sanitary inspectors did their jobs diligently, and there was never stagnant water. This ensured good primary health care that did not allow mosquitoes to breed. The result was in Lagos that was generally free of mosquitoes. We young men loudly passed the nights on the open pavements. In retrospect, Osogbo and Lagos molded my character and prepared me for leadership role in my adult life. At 10 years plus in age, I was already a chorister in African Church Osogbo. In sports, at that dental age, I was a boxer, participating in local championship of Osogbo Sports Club. At Methodist Boys High School, it was not just cramming in preparation for examinations. I had full education in its true meaning and ramification. I participated enthusiastically in all aspects of educational developments. I was in virtually all the clubs: Scouting, Red Cross Society, Debating Society, Excursion Society. I participated in soccer, table tennis, lawn tennis, and swimming. I crowned it by being sponsored to the Cameroons for Man Overbay leadership training. And I was the team manager of the school soccer team that won the Principal School Cup in 1961, aside being a school prefect.
Oh, great. That's a book. It's a must-read book, obviously. So you went on to a very elaborate narration of the Egba identity as a boy who was born and initially bred in Osogbo. As you note, it is one of the darts used by political enemies to assail your claim to being an indigene of Ogun State. But seriously now, shouldn't we be de-emphasizing the notion of indigenship now in our Nigeria political life, such that where you come from don't matter, as long as you're able to deliver on the mandate?
Well, that will take a long time because we are still a developing country. And until we get to true regionalism, true federalism, I won't subscribe to free for all kind of thing in America where you can contest from one state to the other. No. It will take time before we arrive at that. I won't subscribe to it.
And then you also talked about Lagos. You seem to have a very passionate, intimate relationship with Lagos. Your description of Lagos, whoever hasn't been to Lagos will just, from your own description, feel like they've lived in Lagos. You talked about your festival, you talked about the cultural exchange and all the trappings that makes Lagos, Lagos. One would expect that given all that you experienced in Lagos, would have a replica of that Lagos that you so talked about with embellishment and, some kind of emotional crescendo that only the reader can feel when you read the book. You had an opportunity to replicate that in Ogun State. Did you get to that? Were you able to, or were there reasons why you couldn't replicate those nostalgic experience and the trappings and all the infrastructural development, that happened that time and now?
Lagos was Nigeria. And Lagos has always been a place that accommodated people. And I'm grateful to Lagos. Even though I'm from the state and I'm a proud Egba person. But Lagos gave me everything. Streetwise, I used to join the Muslim in Lagos to celebrate fasting. And at that time, we used to sing from about 11 in the night till about 2 in the morning around Lagos. We call it Jiwere. From there, the Fuji music developed. I used to be part of it. And Lagos gave me everything, professional exposure, whatever I have today, Lagos gave me. And I'm proud to have achieved so much to what I got from Lagos, that my source, Egba, we have great history. We are the first in everything. Journalism, in which I made my name, first newspaper started from my town, Abeokuta, in 1859. The first newspaper was founded in Abeokuta, and I'm proud to be it. So in every aspect, I'm proud of it too. The Lagos of our days was Lagos. I've mentioned the number of schools. We knew ourselves. The population was a little more than not more than about 500,000 people. So every family knew each other. It is not Lagos of 14, 20 million today. And then we interacted in every aspect of life, debating, inter-sports. We interacted successfully. And there was peace and orderliness in Lagos of my time. I still have nostalgic feeling. But because of what I went through in Lagos of my days, there was water. Water supply was constant. And pipe-borne water was everywhere in the street. So when I became governor in Ogun State, I made sure that there was water in all major towns in Ogun State. There was power supply in Lagos. I made sure that energize as many towns and villages as possible with modern day electrification. In fact, in one day, in the Northeast, the local government in Ogun State, I commissioned 17 towns in one day that we gave electricity to 17 towns. So I wanted a good life. I never knew will get to the stage where you can sit in a remote village and run your business without having to come to Lagos. So the part that I supply to those areas with Wi-Fi, you don't need to come to Lagos to do your business. Stay in your village with power supply, with water, with Wi-Fi. You can run your business. So that was my philosophy, which I pursued when I was governor in Ogun State.
Okay, thank you very much. These are the questions we have at the moment, but there are questions that have been coming in while we're talking, and we'll just pick some of the questions and throw it at you for answers. Now, Olusheyi Ayorinde says, kudos to AREMO Oshoba for honoring the invitation to be here. Like Chief Awolowo and the likes of Alhaji Jakonde, he has shown quite eminently so that when journalists venture into politics and governance, they stand out. More importantly, when they leave the stage for others, they document their experience and expand the frontiers of debate. Thank you, sir. Okay, that's just a comment. Paul Kelechi also wrote, despite similarities in circumstances in the Nigerian struggle for times past and today, it would seem more the Nigerian youths have lost their voice to speak to power. Why is that? Regards, Paul Kelechi. So his question basically says, we haven't really given the Nigerian youth the playing ground, you know, to express themselves and live out their potential as potential leaders.
Nobody trains somebody to be leader. You have to ensure that you use your talent. And I will agree with Kelechi that it should not be discouraged. It should remain determined, focused, irrespective of whatever anybody will say. Well, we should mentor. And I do try my best to mentor some of my younger professional colleagues, and I still interact with many of my professional colleagues. We can only do a little bit of mentoring, but Kelechi, you must be determined, remain focused, and be courageous to follow whatever you believe in.
Okay, Azu Arinze, one of our revered journalists, he says, any serious journalist who hasn't read Olusegun Oshoba's Battle Line Adventure in Journalism and Politics is missing a lot. That's his comment. And then from Adegbenga Kaka, it's pleasurable for me to be part of this review of a well-chronicled event recorded in book form for posterity. The attempt to set the record straight is bound to engender reactions from living referrals or witnesses of relevant events as recorded. By so doing, the author's expectations and motives of writing the book, once met, will enrich the knowledge of coming generations. Congratulations to His Excellency for the grace, courage, and painstakingness in putting together the interesting collation in simple and lucid expressions. Thanking God for His life extension that has made the book birth possible, wishing him many happy gifts of productive years in service of humanity and to the glory of God. That's from Kaka.
Thank you very much, Kaka. Thank you.
Yeah, I also have Fumi Komolafe. I'm so pleased to be a part of this discussion, which focuses on the battle lines written by my mentor, Managing Director at the Daily Times, Chief Oshoba. In the book, revealed how a journalist can balance his or her own professional interest with personal relationship sources. He once described reporters as a combatant in the newsroom. I agree with him and I share his view. Without reporters, there is no newsroom. The book is a must for anyone who wants to make a mark in journalism. One of the lessons for journalists is that anyone who lacks confidence, anyone who cannot take risk, has no business in journalism. Unfortunately, many young professionals today lack these attributes. I commend him for writing this book because oftentimes journalists tell the stories of others, but they never have the time to tell their own story. Thank you for putting this together. Generations yet unborn will benefit from this book. That's from one of your mentees.
Yes, I respect her, because when I was blackmailed that I was the one who gave up Kokori, she was the one who wrote the story and wrote in-depth story about it and interviewed Kokori. I respect her, and I forever and ever I'm grateful to her.
Okay, great. And so we have our own revered Omoba Yemisi Shilon. Your book reveals to me, of course, is one of our platforms. Your book reveals to me that you were mostly motivated by the need to contribute, add value, and leave a legacy in all you did. Sir, can we correct the current monetization of our values, which I see as our nation's and jettisoning of meritocracy, which I see as two issues to save us from our current albatross?
Well, let me see. I would say we should start with digitalizing our voting system. Our voting system now has been monetized, and people now go to sell their votes for as little as 5,000. If only INEC should be forced to go digital, if Nigerian Bank can go digital, and point of sale is functioning very well in Nigeria, ATM is functioning very well. If a kobo is taken out of your account, their last chance immediately on your system. We should go digital. If we sanitize our voting system, people of merit will be elected, and the changes will occur automatically. Thank you, Yemisi.
Okay, your son, AJ Ahmed, says, on a lighter mode, was newspapers for the boys partly the origin of anything for the boys that, as we have it today?
It has always been there. Even in Canada, there will be a little bit, it won't be much, but there will be a little bit of corruption here and there. But in every society, there will be corruption. Anything for the boys. As I said, in my time, there was brown envelope. And it's an institution. It will be there forever. But we must contain it and discourage it with everything possible.
Thank you, sir. And then Molara Woods, Chief Osoba, was part of the heydays of Daily Times when it was the most influential newspaper in Nigeria. How does he feel about the state of that newspaper today?
Most unfortunate. And I just submitted to buy Daily Times when the Bajo wanted to sell it. Unfortunately, the likes of Elijah said, Yabi Ogubi and Co., who are put money together to buy it. We would have all been back to revive the paper. They didn't get, they didn't sell it. President Bajo didn't sell it to Elijah. It's unfortunate. It's part of my history that is dead, and it's part of the history of Nigeria that is dead. It's unfortunate.
Well, and then Chief Steve Wonsu said, what is the most urgent thing AREMO or Osoba would want done to journalism in Nigeria to make it better? Steve Wonsu.
Let's go back to the old days when in the daytimes we were well regulated, when in those days Samamuka used to drive the best of the sports car available in those days. Let's bring our younger colleagues back to that pride of having the best of everything to practice their profession in a very proud manner. That's the best that we wish to happen to journalists in this country.
Okay, on a lighter note, Malara Woods also wrote again, Chief Osoba always looks very fetching in the Yoruba Kende. I don't know if I pronounced the word very correctly. We need a few words on his sartorial style, especially with Yoruba attire.
You need what?
She's requesting that we need a few words on his sartorial style, especially with Yoruba attire.
Oh, well, I grew up seeing my father wear ashoke, and my best dress is still ashoke. I'm wearing dashiki because dashiki was what I was brought up as a young person without having to wear the agbada. So I still replicate dashiki. Now I wear true gobi. Yoruba cap is either gobi or abetiaja, the Oyo abetiaja. This is true gobi, and I always wear gobi. I don't wear modern machine woven ashoke. I wear the genuine true ashoke cap, and I wear this is gobi style. I'm proud of my culture, and I'm not dressing to impress anybody. I'm always dressing to carry on the culture, the Yoruba culture. And I'm grateful to Kabiyesi Aláàfin for you, who, when I was in Methodist Boys High School, although he was my senior, he's always telling me that he's proud of me whenever I wear the Yoruba ashoke. I'm proud, and when I wear my dress, my wife will see that you should Yoruba jacket, not this heavy dressing like you are carrying a heavy design on your chest. So I'm proud. I just want to sell Yoruba culture, and that was why during my first coming, I was always in Nigeria, the Egba textile material.
Okay. Against this background of all that you've described about the Yoruba culture and your fashion preference, and given what obtains today, I mean, on a final note now, because I mean, we've taken a lot of time from people who would need to probably go do some other things before the day runs out. The fashion trend today is is a departure for what was back in the day. What's your take on that? I know you're a young man, in an old man's body, because the way you talk and everything you still radiate youth in your expressions. Today's culture of dressing and what you had before, of course, there is a clear-cut difference between those two divides. Should we continue to encourage our youth, to at least embrace the culture that we have today? I mean, the culture of yesteryears, promoting our heritage, our culture, what we really stand for as Africans, as against what is being projected today.
Our culture is very, very rich in every aspect. The cultural value of Omoluabi has been there for, which is developing your self-esteem. And culturally, we are far, far advanced than many of these local countries. America is a new nation. Our culture is far, far older than America. And that's why I'm very proud when people disparage my forefathers. I always disagree. I said that I was telling my wife, I said, my ancestors who passed before Jesus will be in heaven. Why? Because they believe in Olodumare. They believe in Oluwa. They believe in God. They never have, somebody, a vast person in Yoruba culture was telling us that you may have images to show Ogun, Shogo, but there is no image for Olodumare, for Oluwa, for Olorun. My forefathers believed in God. They believed in God before the British brought the Bible to Nigeria. So our culture is rich culture, and I will do everything to promote my culture, and I will not allow anybody to disparage and say that my culture is useless. Till I die, I will remain an ambassador of the cultural value of Nigeria, of Yoruba, of Africa.
That's a very strong one. Azu Arinze again says, God has done a lot for you as a person, both in your professional and personal life. What has he not done for you? What is it that you want God to do? This is coming from Azu Arinze. He says, God has done so much for you. I mean, your professional life, as you have attested to in your book, he's done well for you in your professional life and even your personal life. So what is it that God has not done for you? That's what Arinze is asking.
God has done too much. And I keep telling people, my prayer always is not to ask for anything else, but to say, thank you, Lord. Thank you, God. Thank you. I said thanksgiving. Because right from my formative year, even in school, I was very famous. And I had the best of everything. I wrote bicycle when I was in school. I mean, if you look at my dresses in my book, you know when I was young, I dressed well. And when I went into journalism, I became famous instantly. And since then, God has been too kind that today, I tell God, anything else you want, you should give it to young people like Yuazu, THECLA, Jaman, Kifatunke, those of you who have put this thing together. Is God, I don't want to buy, I don't pray to have an aircraft. I don't want it. I want it for you people. If you have, and I say I want to go somewhere, you will give me. I've driven the best cars in the world. I don't have, God has been too kind. If I feel, I keep asking myself, I was telling my wife while we were doing our usual work yesterday, I said, well, look, what else can anyone ask from God that he has not given me? At 81, God has given me good health, contentment. The greatest thing that God gave me is contentment. I don't envy anybody. And there's nothing anybody is endowed with that I wish I would have. I've had everything. The rest for me is to continuously say, thank you, Lord. Thank you, God, for everything.
Oh, great.
Thanksgiving, always.
Oh, great. There are 2 hands raised here already. I can see 2 hands raised already. But let's take this question from Caller of Africa Media before we go to the 2 commentators who contribute to the conversation. Caller Africa says, what keeps Baba keeping young? What is it that makes you look young? There must be something. Is it an agbo you're taking? Is it something? This is me adding my own words now.
No,
Are you taking agbo? Please tell us that we young as you are when we get to the age of 81. Please tell us the secret.
No, the first thing is grace of God. You know, it's not my making. God must have done something to my system. I don't know. Grace of God. But the top of it, the most important thing is to be contented. If you have 1 kobo, spend that 1 kobo the way you want to spend it and be happy with it. I have always been contented all my life. Even though I would say God is too kind. Contentment is vital in life. If you are contented, you will sleep better because you won't be thinking of why is this man having this and I'm not having it. Contentment is very vital in life. God's grace and contentment are the key.
Okay, so let's go to the hands that are raised. Let's open the floor for those hands that have been raised. Let's take Chief Kaka first, and then we go on to Buki Raimo. Coordinator, can you up the mic, Chief Kaka?
You can call the next person while I look for him.
Okay, so we have Buki Brimo as well. Is Buki,
yeah,
okay,
I'm here.
Oh,
Thank you very much. Yes.
Okay.
Let me take the opportunity to first of all appreciate everyone that has put this together for Chief Oshoba. I've known Chief Oshoba now for a little bit on the 10 years. Actually, I was in secondary school when he was Governor of Ogun State. I was a student back then in Ogun State myself. But I've been listening to everything about his life as a journalist and also as a politician. I'm able to conclude Chief Oshoba was very bold in his days as a journalist, very, very bold, sometimes confrontational with some leadership and some powerful people, which I have no doubt is what really brought him into success in politics. I just want to say That kind of boldness is still needed today, especially in Nigerian politics today. And the legacy of Chief Oshoba, as he has said proudly, there's absolutely nothing that he's looking for. There's absolutely nothing he's expecting. But there's still something that needs to be done. There has to be some people that will carry out this legacy of yours right behind you by the grace of God, maybe after 90 or after you turn 100, and whenever it pleases God. I always pray for you to get to 90, 91, 92. I hope some people will pray for that, but that's my prayer. So there's going to be some people that will still continue this legacy. I mean, I love your politics. I love the style, and I honestly love the way you reference God in everything that you do. But I want the boldness to continue. We cannot, and you cannot just leave things in the hand of the set of people that in politics today, especially in Ogun State. And may God continue to bless you, sir.
So I guess that's you commending the author, Chief Oshoba, for a life well lived, and he's still living it. Yeah. And by the grace of God, he will live many, many, many more years to come. Yeah. Now, there's a question that came from Steve Ayoride, one of our own. He says, whatever happened to that famous Vespa, the scooter? That's going to Chief Oshoba now. Steve Ayoride is asking, what happened to your famous Vespa? Is Chief Oshoba on the line?
I think.
Can we up the sound of Chief Oshoba, because there's a question from Steve Ayoride.
Okay, I'm trying to locate it.
I think you lost him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's back on though.
It's back on.
Oh,
okay.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Now repeat the question.
Okay, Chief Oshoba, can you hear me? Okay, so Steve Ayorinde is asking what happened to the famous Vespa, the scooter you talked about in the book. I don't know if you can hear me.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, yes, you're back.
Yes, I had a question about what happened to my famous scooter.
Yes, the scooter.
Fortunately, the only thing I have is the typewriter I use in typing the story of Tafawa Balewa. The motorcycle I rode to the site is gone. I can't lay my hand on it.
Oh.
Unfortunately.
Oh wow, that's
so
sad.
That
would have been something for posterity. Would add to one of the museums. What about the telephone? The telephone set. Do you still have it? Did you keep it in your hand? You discarded it as well?
No, that one's gone.
Okay, great. So one of the commentators said, your life was largely made at the Daily Times, Babatunde Joseph's Daily Times, where you excelled. That was the institution of your stature. The institution that the military coveted and probably destroyed. Today, do you miss that Daily Times as the institution of strength like Washington Post, FT London, and then the role it could have played in nurturing our democracy? That's coming from Benga Adefaye.
It's most unfortunate, you see. That time would have that trained the likes of myself, Samamuka, Peter Nauru, but so many of us produced the likes of Fesanake and Co. Will have remained an institution like the Washington Post, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the Los Angeles Times. That should have been a legacy and part of our history. It's most unfortunate. We lack historical heritage. It's one of the drawbacks of our life in Nigeria.
I knew this question was going to come up again. That's why I said we'll leave it to the floor. When we talked about Babangida, somebody is still not done with the Babangida story. And they're asking what you have to say about Babangida's role in Dele Giwa's demise.
Babangida's role in what?
In Dele Giwa's demise.
Well, I cannot comment on that. People make stories about it. I was with Dele Giwa a day before the incident on October 18. We were at Admiral Ihobu, who had just then been appointed the Chief of Staff, Supreme Headquarters, and we had lunch with him. After we left, no, we had lunch with Wale Adosh, who had just been restored as managing director of his bank, who was suspended, and then we went to Ihobu. That was all. Until the following day, people tell stories of what happened. I have no evidence to pass judgment, and I'm not going to be put into passing judgment on something that I have no evidence to pass judgment on.
Okay, just a follow-up on that question. Since you're a very good friend of Babangida, have you at any time urged him to write a book? Because there's so many questions, more questions than answers, that we need to have clarity on so many fronts. Isn't there a way you can probably urge him to write a book to encapsulate those experiences and just give it some closure, as would be expected from Nigeria?
Well, it's too late for him. The man is 79. He will be 80 August 17 next year. What can his 79? Now, when I pick a book, by the time I read for about 30 minutes, I doze off. I can't pick a book and read it in one way anymore. The energy is not there. The interest is not there. As you grow older, your brain cells die in trillions. So your ability to remember and recollect issues the way it should be is gone. For General Babangida, at 79, I don't think the memory can be that sharp again to recall as much as we would have loved to recall. Unfortunately, I would say it's a little bit late.
Okay, but you launched a book at 80, and I'm sure he probably would have had maybe something in the archive. All he needs to do is probably put it together. That's a question that, some people would ask, a follow-up question to what you just said. Here you are, you spent over 2 hours with us, and there's not been a dull moment with you here. And so if a younger person, is urged to write a book and you're giving this answer, you're giving this excuse, do you think that is actually really tenable? If you want to be very realistic and very honest.
That a young man should write? No, I didn't get the tenet of the question.
You
what is this about young men writing?
Book at 80, right?
Yes.
And if you, an older person like you, could write a book, could articulate a book, even though I know you had a collection of the materials over the years, I don't think also he probably would have done same, collecting these materials. All he needs to do is just put it together to just have closure on so many questions that are begging for answers.
You should have asked me what I went through to write this book. The energy was not there. My sleeping pattern is disjointed. So when I wake up at times at about 2 in the morning, I will pick my pen when I have the energy, write a page or two, and then leave it in my wife's room to read in the morning to edit for me. There was a case of when we travel on a long haul between Dubai and Miami. I think for my 65th or so birthday, and spend the time in the right. That was the way I did not sit down in one go to write this book. I was as the energy comes. it's not easy when you get older to write a book. It took a lot of effort for somebody as old as me to be able to write a book, because the energy is not the bouncing energy of the old days of SEGUN OSOBA. I look healthy, but I know that the system is not as strong and good as it used to be.
Okay, so we have about 5 hands raised now, and let's at least give them the floor to ask questions. If our coordinator, the technical coordinator, can up their sound, for them to ask the questions, that would be most appreciated.
We
have 5 hands.
Which name do you want?
We have Adegbenga Kaka. We have Odunjobi Kayode. We also have Iyabo Aboaba and Olabode Mustafa.
Okay.
At least those are the ones now.
Okay. Is Chief Kaka still there? I don't think so. Iyabo Aboaba, please.
Well, you've unmuted me.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, sir. Oh, that's Olabode. We'll get to you, sir.
Okay. You unmuted me. Okay.
It says Chief Kaka is back.
I'm
Chief
back.
Oh, okay. Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Am I to go on?
Yes, sir. Ask your question.
Well, it's not question. My own is commendation for the organizer of this event. And of course, to congratulate my boss. Once a boss is always a boss. During this, the first birthday, it kept occurring to me to ask him the question. And happily enough, he answered the question not quite long now. The question was derived from the Holy Quran. In Quran 55, verses 60 to 61. And I wrote that which of the favor of the Almighty God is Chief Osoba going to deny? I periscope through the length and breadth of activities since I got to know him, and I tend to feel that there is hardly any favor of the Almighty God that he could deny. From birth, he was lucky to be born. He was lucky to go through the toddlership without getting consumed with all the hanky-pankies. He was in school. Many of the pranks they play, including the one he just recollected when himself, Babangida, and others were on the Lagos street doing their thing. And yet, he managed to escape everything. Then coming to Rogers, it was a gracious escape. And in journalism, a lot of risk factor. In politics, the same was the same thing. So there's hardly any. And you look at the family, many people are still looking for 1 or 2 children to birth. But with chosen number of children, with closely knitted family, he's been able to nurse and nurture his family to an enviable height. So by and large, he's been given everything that any normal human being would have to have. So to have the courage now to put together all his experiences, all the events in his life in a book form is a grace from Almighty God. He himself acknowledged that, and by trying to shield away some of his age mates and compeers that they are too old to write books, I also agree with the organizer that it's never too late, even at 90. Once you have the document, you can package them together and somebody can assist you in authoring it. So in case of Chief Oshoba, we can congratulate him for a wonderful job done. And I'm sure what he had done with the book will naturally engender a lot of reactions from many people that were touched in the book. And those of us who are also a little bit lazy, it will be a sort of impetus for us to buckle up and want to put things on paper so that generation coming behind can benefit from wealth of experience of those who had passed through. Because there's nothing, we can't get it to buy. The experience it brought into government, those of us who appear to be like novice, we gain a lot from there. And those who are younger journalists, they are bound to have gained a lot. So I will also join him in calling on all others, whether young or old, put whatever comes into your brain, whatever you pass through, document it for posterity. May God continue to bless him and grant him more useful life to humanity. And of course, those of us who are still learning also, may we have the grace to imbibe wisdom from those who are qualified to bestow it on others. So I congratulate him and I thank you very much for the wonderful job you have done.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And moving forward, can we just have a minute or two moving forward? Let's just have a minute or two for those who would like to say something. We have about 7 hands there now. So if we'll just summarize, just put out your points in a nutshell, just in a minute or two, so that we can save time. You know, Baba is a very young man. He needs to go have his dinner.
So,
Okay, come on now.
How do you do, Joby?
Okay, I'm on, sir. I'm on.
Okay.
Well, I am so thankful to the organizer of this program and to the man himself, you know, Chief Olusegun Osoba. What my question is actually that, you know, all the things mentioned, although I've not read the book, but all the things mentioned in the book, I think is a nucleus and in fact, the whole story of Nigeria, or not the whole story per se, but the bulk of our story in Nigeria. And I'm looking at a situation that now that we don't have history in our school again. I am looking for a way or a forum where history should be, you know, taken back or brought back to our classrooms. I know at the universities level you do history and international studies, but right in the classroom, I think we should have more than the civic education, more than the government, and of course more than the social studies we're having. So history should be back in our classroom. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your contribution. So now we go to Iyabo Aboaba. If Aboaba is ready, can we?
Yes, please, I am.
Comment?
Yes,
okay,
please, I am.
Please, go ahead.
Good evening, Chief Oshoba. I am happy to be part of today. You've always been an anchor. There are very few of you left. What I'd like to find out from you, what can you do about the journalists of these days? You're proud to be a journalist. Their style of writing is not anything to write home about, and that should be improved. Thank you.
Okay. I think we should take all the questions and then.
Okay, great. Great.
Call the next person.
We have Pat Puato.
Yes. Opuzo. Opuzo. Can you hear me? Good evening.
All right.
Yeah. To make it very, very quick, I don't want journalists or politicians to appropriate Chief Oshoba. There are other areas of his life that I want to focus on, like music. What kind of music does our chief truly love?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, So we have the next.
You skipped Olabode Mustafa.
Yeah. Thank you
Yes.
very much for having me. First, I'd like to congratulate Akio.
You.
But I also like to bring to the fray one thing he never talked about, and that's exactly the way he treated politicians while he was in office. Chief Oshoba was and still remains the only governor that has governed in Ogun State since I went to politics in Ogun State, who would return your call after midnight. There were no mobile phones. His secretary would take the calls, and once your phone rang after midnight, you knew it was Chief Oshoba. He would dial your number himself, and he would call you, he would return your call to know exactly what the call was all about. My question is there a way he can invite this in up-and-coming politicians? And also, is there a way he can also educate present governors who take 100, 200 million naira as security votes per month, how he managed to 250,000 naira in a month for security purposes in Ogun State? Thank you very much. But once again, Akaragun, I heartily congratulate you, sir.
Thank you very much. Can we have the others? Technical coordinator, can you bring up
Yomi Layinka?
Yes, Olayinka.
Yomi Layinka.
Okay.
Thank you. Good evening, Chief Ekalesa. I just want to follow up on an earlier question and what I like to call the ambiguous relationship between the media and power. And I take it back to your relationship, particularly as you narrated in the book, regarding your tango with the erstwhile Minister of Information, Prince Tony Momo, when you were ceremoniously relieved of your office as MD. And you then tapped into all your contacts, calling the Director General of the SSS, calling the chiefs, army chiefs, and so forth. Was that not unduly tapping into or making the relationship between the media and power rather ambiguous? I'll end this by saying, in a sense, that it manifested many years later in your relationship, for instance, with Chief Obafemi Awolowo. I know that there were three of you who eventually named the Three Musketeers. And in some photographs, even in your book, we saw how three of you, as very senior editors of newspapers, were cozying up to him, practically helping him write his speeches. Was that not dangerous for the independence and objectivity required of senior editors? Thank you, sir.
Okay. Agnes, please. And after that, Molara Wood. Medlin Tado, please.
And we also have Prof. Rohaman.
Yes. Yes.
If Molara is not ready, Medlin is not ready, we can have Rahaman.
Mrs. Agnes, go ahead, madam.
Okay, Agnes is off the chat now. Can we have Medlin Tado? Come on.
Hello? Hello?
Yes.
So who's talking now? Molara Wood?
Okay. It's a quick one. Okay. Okay, it's a quick one. And I just wanted to clarify the item of clothing in my question earlier was the kembe. The kembe.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
And so we have Prof. Rahaman.
Rahman, yes. Professor Rahman, please. Professor Rahman. Okay. Maybe Professor Rahman.
I think with that, because we're looking at the time now. Pastor.
Yes, I'm on. Can you hear me?
Yes, who is speaking right now? Who's talking right now?
I'd like to congratulate you.
Medley?
Okay. Right.
Congratulations, Your Excellency. I'm one of your protege and our next Daily Times. I share your views about what has happened to Daily Times. So some of us have the best years of the Daily Times. So I'd like to take you back to I'd like to take you back to questioning you talked about, you answered earlier on. When you said you are still a reporter, can you truly say that you I haven't finished with my question.
Yeah, it's your audio, man. I think you can have the question now. I think there's a problem with your audio. Maybe we take Professor Rahman and then get back to you. Professor Rahman.
Can you hear me now?
Okay. The audio is failing, but you can.
Hello?
Hello?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Okay.
Hello?
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 I think we're having.
I was referring to him saying that he.
The audio is very poor.
Why I have an issue with my audio.
Can you hear me?
It's quite clear.
Hold on, Professor Rahman.
I think we should move on. Let's move on. Let's move on. So let's have.
Hello?
Professor Rahman.
Yes, okay, good evening.
Okay, great.
Go on,
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm glad to be part of this.
Okay.
The excerpts of the book which I have listened to, especially the ones about page 31 and so on, brings me wonderful memories of Lagos in the 50s and 70s and early 60s. I now know why SEGUN OSOBA did so well when we were in the Cameroons on the citizenship and leadership training course, and we climbed the Cameroon mountain together. I've not got a copy of this book. I would like to know what bookshops to go and find it, so I can read the rest of it. But I want to ask, is there any mention of his honorific title, which we gave him in Lagos in those days, of Sir James Babaibo? Because there was no party we went to in Lagos. If Sir James was not there, then that party was not a party. I thank you for the opportunity, and I congratulate him on putting this book together. Have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so can we have Chief Oshoba respond to these comments and questions that have been asked so far? Pat Guazo, he talked about he asked of your taste in music. And then we have Iyabo, who talked about writing skills of writers, journalists today, how we can improve on their writing skills. Olabode talked about your phone culture. You see, we have a very good one, because even me, I can attest to that. You call him at 2 a.m., he's picking your call at the first ring. And that's very, very, very remarkable of a man of his standing, social standing. We also have Yomi Olanyika. He mentioned, he talked about media relationship and power, and how sometimes some of our media practitioners leverage on their reach and power to get what they want from those in power. They also mentioned the Three Musketeers and the mystery around that and how that came up. He also talked about objectivity in media reportage when he mentioned how Oshoba and co helped to rewrite someone else's expressions. We have Rahman. Of course, Rahman was the last person to speak. And of course, I want to believe you heard his question as well. So can you react to some of these questions and comments that have been put out by our audience?
Well, I lost contact because my internet was off.
Oh, yeah.
The question I had was from Ababa, Pat, Mustafa, Olayinka. Which are the other ones? These are the ones I have before I lost contact.
Olayinka's one is there. Okay, have that one.
Olayinka,
the other
Mustafa.
ones were, we have Pat, we have Iyabo. Did you get Iyabo's question?
Yes.
Okay, you got Iyabo's question, and then Yomi Olayinka. Then Molara Woods was very particular about the Kembe. She said the question
about what?
Kembe.
Kembe.
About what?
Sir, you know, she asked a question earlier on about your dressing style. Then you answered. Then she said it is more about the Kembe that she was asking, not really about your dressing culture.
What did Molara ask?
Molara, are you there? Maybe she can repeat the question.
Okay. Let me start with Olayinka. He was talking of the power and media.
Yes.
Yes.
And how you your relationship with people in power to get what you want.
Yes. Now, first of all, in relation to Papa Obafemi Awolowo, we related with him more as our publisher. He was the publisher of Nigeria Tribune, and through the government of UPN, part publisher of the Daily Sketch. That's why we had very close relationship with him. But his own style of interacting with us is to discuss with us at dinner. He never at any time interfered with the editorial policy of the two newspapers. Neither did he try to influence our thinking. But he will educate us at dinner on many aspects of life. And in relation to power, you see, a journalist must be close to power, but must know the limit of that closeness. You must not compromise your integrity. Once you compromise your integrity with people in power, you'll be respected. You must be close to power to even gauge what's going on, to collect information, to assess the information you have collected, and to know when you are being used and when you are to be objective. I thank Babagua, Chibode Mustafa. Yes, you see, it's a personal attitude. As a reporter, I've learned not to be up to date. So when somebody calls me, I'm anxious and curiosity. What is the person looking for me for? And one weakness I have, which cost me a lot, is that if you call me when I was in office and I call you back and you wanted something that I know I cannot do, I will tell you to your face, this is impossible. Many people don't like that. They want you to pretend to say, okay, I'll look into it, when in actual fact, they're not going to look into anything. And once I answer a call, that's one less bell for me to answer.
I think we're losing.
Out of prejudice.
We're losing.
Okay, yes? He's back. He's back. Go on, sir.
Okay.
Hello?
Go on, sir.
You can go on. You can go on.
Pardon?
You can go on, sir.
Go on.
The only music I don't appreciate is classical, because I believe classical is for the elitists. I don't blame those who enjoy it, but I'm not part of it. Yabo Abawa was talking of style of writing. Yes, unfortunately, some of our journalists don't take advantage of array of information available to them. There is nothing you wanted today that's sort of Google. In my day, we used to go to the library to look for Encyclopedia Britannica to source for information. Now, you can Google anything on earth. You can ask for anything on Google, and you can get any information you want. But unfortunately, journalists are not taking advantage. Even spelling, pronunciation, everything is on Google. I use Google a lot to update myself every day. And I wish that our writers would do the same by using Google to bring themselves up to date and to do references as much as possible to enhance the writings. I don't know of any other question. Those are the ones I had on paper here. Is anyone missing the questions?
Okay. Moderator, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. So have you answered Pat Okwazo's question on music?
Pat asked me about music. Yes, it was Pat.
Yeah.
Yes, I've answered it. I said I enjoy cultural, but the one I don't enjoy, I don't bother is classical music. Variety of music.
Okay.
I've answered.
Omolara talked about
okay, if I can just come in.
Yes.
Chief, you did answer my question. I just came in to correct the pronunciation of the Kembe. The question, what I mentioned the Kembe. So I just wanted to make that clear. But you answered my question about your sartorial choices comprehensively. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. On that note, I think we have covered reasonable.
There is Professor Rahman's question about Sir James.
Oh, yeah. Somebody asked about Sir James. Professor yes, my Christian baptismal name is James. And when I was in Methodist Boys High School, the Governor General then was Sir James Robertson. And when I was a junior, my colleagues used to taunt our senior by calling me Governor General, Sir James, the Governor General. I did not know I would ever be governor. That was as far back as 1956. So the Governor General was Sir James Robertson. And by virtue of the English system is Sir James. And so my classmates never called me by name. I was always Sir James. I never knew that they were confined to me as far back as 1956, the office of governor. Only for God to do it, and I became governor in 1992. So Sir James was my name, my baptismal name, and the Sir was added because the Governor General, when we entered Methodist Boys High School, when we were admitted to Methodist Boys High School in 1956, was Sir James Robertson.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. We want to really appreciate you for the time you have spent with us and the much you have shared with us. Of course, this will also inspire those who haven't read the book to go pick a copy. You have mentioned the places where the book can be picked. Thank you for sharing your life experience with us, not just journalists, but Nigerians in general. Like one of the
last word.
Said, yes, one of the commentators said, yes, one of the
CORA, BookTrek, and all of you that were involved in putting this up. My prayer is that by God's grace, you will all be greater in multiple ways than whatever I've ever achieved in life. I appreciate all that you have done. And all those who participated, I want to say very, very, very big and mighty thanks to all of you. All these things are the things that gives me longevity. And when I see those of you are my friends around me, your Bible say, in Yoni Ashomi, the honor, the greatness that I have are all of you around me. I don't want to go into details of mentioning names, People are participating from Canada, from US, from UK, and everywhere. It takes quite a lot on your part and a lot of sacrifice to be so interested as to spend your valuable time with me. I say God will continue to bless all of you. And mighty I thank you, and I thank you. God bless.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And we thank you too for all that you're doing, all that you have done, and all that you continue to do. I mean, for individuals like me, you are an inspiration. You've inspired me in so many ways. I come to you for advice and all of that. I'm in trouble, and you're always there. Thank you so much. And personally, thank you. I don't have to wait till your next birthday to thank you. So thank you. Thank you for that. So we will, I'll be handing over to the program chair of CORA, Jaman and Nicola to run.
Thank you very much, everybody, the entire house. We started, our peak was like 80 something, and now we're still 50, which means that we're still here, and we have over 60 people who are still on Facebook. As I can see from there, we have 66 people on Facebook. So thank you very much. That means we are almost about 120 or 130 people here. We thank you very much, Chief Osoba, for being with us. I'm sorry, my internet is bad, as I've said, and so I'm looking like a ghost. So let me just put off my camera. So we thank you very much, sir, for allowing us to do this to you, because this is like dragging you out of your piece to make sure that you come to address us on this book. This is a very important book, as Azu Arinzi and some journalists in the house have been saying. And in the back end, we kept on talking to some of our board members, and they're saying that during LABAF in November, that we should explore the opportunity of seeing whether you'll be able to participate to bring you out physically to Freedom Park, which is a place I know you like to be. Yabo Ababa will be our host with Theo Lawson. They will be our host because we're doing both real and virtual of the Lagos Book and Art Festival, during which this BookTrek, where we can now have audience sit down. They don't have to sit. We will maintain all the protocols. People will be well seated in places, and you have over 100 people that will be there. Please, the date is November 9 to 15. So we're just stretching our luck further, because this is a very important book that we want a lot of people to relate to. So thank you very much. And THECLA, thank you very much. We couldn't have gone for a better person. So I was happy when you said you could do it. And we know that you have read the book and you'll be able to ask the necessary question. And the follow-up questions are so good. So thank you very much. To everybody who has been here, we thank you so much. And we know that when next we call you, you'll be there. Not just because it will be Chief Osoba, but because you believe that the book should trek. The meaning of BookTrek is that the book should move to people, just as people are moving to books. So we appreciate you all. Akin, Fatunke, and THECLA, they were behind this whole thing. We're not sure how to approach Chief Osoba, but the two of them came and they mounted pressure on Chief Osoba. And we have it. The publisher of the book, thank you very much, Lanre Idowu, we'll be liaising with you. You've been posting addresses where you can, if you go to the chat room, you see the place where you can get the book. Most road booksellers in Ibadan and Abuja, Anson Book in Lagos, Pataba Books in Surulere, ShopRite in Surulere, Diamond Publication, the number is there. The book is 5,000 naira paperback, 7,500 naira hardback. It means that the book can be, you can get the book in most of the bookshops that are existing in Lagos and everywhere, in Abuja and Ibadan. Thank you very much. We appreciate you all. And Chief, we can't thank you enough. Please thank Auntie for me, because we know what to drag you out. In fact, I was afraid that we were already running past your dinner time, but I know you forgive us. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a blessed night.